You're listening to Nostalgia Club, the podcast where we look back on our favorite childhood stories and revisit them as adults. At least one of us hasn't read or watched these series, so we also get a first-timer's opinion. Spoiler alert, we will be discussing storylines and future events beyond the first books and episodes, so proceed with caution.
Hello, and welcome to a special Season 1 recap episode of Nostalgia Club.
Ooh.
I'm here with my two wooers.
Michael.
And Victoria.
Woo.
Woo.
This episode's a little different. We are going to be going back through the previous 15 episodes of Nostalgia Club and discussing the 15 properties that we have covered. But we're not going to be talking directly about these properties. I mean, we can. Who knows? But we're also going to be discussing nostalgia in general.
The concept of nostalgia.
The concept of nostalgia. Our pervasive feelings and experiences tied to a specific point in time that we associate with these properties.
So let's start with episode 1, Warriors, the first of our Warriors episodes, which I guess we might just talk about both Warriors episodes since we're going to talk about what point in life we were at when we encountered this media.
Hey, that first episode? What a mess. Don't listen to that one.
No, it's great.
It's fun.
Are very awkward.
We're still so fresh and new to the idea of podcasting ourselves. We're not the grizzled veterans we are now.
Talking mouth sounds. Excellent.
Spoiler alert for season 2, we're definitely going to do more Warrior Cats episodes, which no one is surprised about.
Well, we have to finish off the first series.
Yeah.
In one terrifying fell swoop.
Yes, we are currently reading the last 3 Warrior Cats books, which has been exciting. It really brought me back to middle school. I was so small when I read these books. What happened?
Did these books sort of lance into your life as a kind of like, this is my new obsession now when you first read them?
Yes. I don't know if I said this in the first episode, but it was paired with me changing schools in the middle of 6th grade. All of my friends from kindergarten to 5th grade were people I'd grown up with. And then my parents were like, haha, there's this charter school that you finally got in the lottery for, so we're switching you over right now. So then I went to this new school. It took me a bit to make new friends, etc. But once I did find friends, the main thing that we bonded over was Warrior Cats.
They introduced you to that.
Yeah.
Did you fall in love with Warrior Cats for the nature of the thing itself? Like, I love cats and I love violent conflict. Or was it kind of like, this is a port in a storm. My whole life has been uprooted. Oh, I like books. Hey, sure. Yeah, let's get into it.
I'm trying to think back to what I liked to read at that point in my life. I think I did read a lot of books just about animals in general. I did read a lot of those horse girl books.
Nice.
I was really into this series about some marine biologists who study dolphins, which made me want to be a marine biologist at one point.
I feel like every art kid has their marine biologist phase. I have a lot of friends who are currently in the arts who all wanted to be marine biologists at one point. Something about the deep ocean and weird squiggly fish.
Yeah.
And just the mystery and the majesty of it all.
I think
That's
I like
true.
the idea of the family would be traveling all the time and just studying animals, and it was super cool. But
It all
yeah.
sounds so nice before your back develops problems.
Yeah. Before you get old. Realistically, I would never have been a good marine biologist.
That's a hard line to draw.
You don't know that.
Yeah.
I did not like swimming that much.
You don't need to swim to be a
That's
marine
true,
biologist. There's lots of different kinds of marine biologists, and some of them never get in the water, I think, probably.
Yeah. I also am just generally squeamish about touching marine animals though.
Yeah,
I guess
that would do it.
Yeah. So I think it was just generally all of these friends are into Warrior Cats. It's a very expansive world.
It's a very expensive series. There's so many books you have to
That's
buy.
true.
It is an expensive
Yeah.
series, now that you say that.
The Warhammer 40K of the kids' book universe. I have to buy so many of these books.
Also, because I liked cats. Yeah, so what's not to love about Warrior Cats?
In this first series that we've been covering, did you have a favorite cat? Because you read so much of the
There's
series
so many
now.
of them.
It was Leaf Pool, right?
Yeah, I liked Leaf Pool a lot.
She's not even in the
No,
first
she's not in the
series.
first series. I like Sandstorm. Sandstorm's pretty cool. And Cinderpelt.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You love Cinderpelt.
Cinderpelt is great.
You can't go wrong with Cinderpelt.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty top
I
tier.
can't wait for you to find out about Cinderpelt's further character arc. Yeah. In future series.
Oh, God. How far are we going to go down this, like, historical annal?
As far as we need to. No.
Now, keep in mind, cats don't live that long. So at a
Yes.
certain point, you will run out of cats, and you will have to make more cats. So
Yeah.
I suppose.
Cinderpelt's lifespan is limited by nature.
There is kind of a catch with that, though. But anyways,
Oh, yeah.
spoilers.
And then
yeah.
they come back as ghosts.
Do you even know what happens to Cinderpelt later?
I don't know.
Oh.
It was so long ago that I can't recall specific points.
Let's just say magic is involved. And that is all. That's where I'll leave it for now.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you, Jino? What's your nostalgia surrounding this era of Warrior Cats time?
I'm going to try not to go too much into what I think I talked about in the first episode. It's been so long, I can't remember. But my life had two distinct Warrior Cats phases. Two parts of my life where I was into Warrior Cats, and then a big gap between those 2 points where I had just forgotten about them and was into other things. One was when I was very young in elementary school. We talked a little bit about how on the playground kids would role play as Warrior Cats. At that point, I was into Warrior Cats because of the cool world building, because of the action and the violence, because, you know, these are wild animals with a structured society. That's really cool. I think that's influenced my interest in other media, like society.
Jino ascends to the presidency.
Yeah.
And when he gets there, he says, my first foray into politics was on the playground when I read Warrior Cats. This is what your voice becomes when you become president.
Excellent. I'm excited. When I say society, I mean kind of like feudal, tribal, warrior society. Honor.
Sure.
Code of honor. And we will stand together and defend our land. That kind of
A kind of
vibe.
historicity to it in a way.
Yeah, but they're cats. On the playground, there was one girl who decided she was the mama cat. She was the
Matriarch?
matriarch.
The blue star?
The blue star. It was a little weird. I think she really, really wanted to be a mom, and she knew that all the way back in elementary school. This may have been middle school even, too.
Huh.
And so she would have her den, her kittens, and she would order them around, and they would bring her things, and I wasn't a part of that. I kind of watched from a distance, like, what is going on over there?
Elementary school politics.
very much a power dynamic there. We were actually in a writing group together for a while in elementary school. We formed a 4-person writing club.
That's
which
impressive.
It was really interesting. Including me, us 4 were probably the 4 most different human beings on the planet. There was me. I was kind of nerdy, but I was also athletic. I kind of bounced around. I was in the theater club. I played Minecraft. I did a lot of things. Very small school.
Classic 4 quadrants of kiddom. Nerdiness, theater, sports, Minecraft.
Minecraft and nerdiness, of course, being far from each other on opposite corners of the spectrum. But the other 3 kids in this writing group were Mama Cat, very much wants to be in control. There was, oh man, I don't want to call these people out too much, but he was like edgy, emo, slacker, would later get really into weed, like that kind of guy.
Okay.
You know, just like sweaty all the time. And then we have, I was friends with him. He was really nice, but he was definitely like a Reddit guy. Like he was online.
Gotcha.
Like grinding on RuneScape, like selling gold to make cash, like that kind of guy. And so the
Classic.
4 of us decided to write an epic fantasy. We picked characters and we wrote the novel from our character's own perspective, which in hindsight is a really bad idea when you're all working separately and you're trying to compare notes and you're like, what did you do? Oh, you're ahead of me? I guess I got to do what you did. And so we would write this, and me being into Warrior Cats, I decided my people are going to be bird people in a society, and they live in trees and they're warriors, and never got much farther than that.
That's great.
Well, the aspiration is impressive nonetheless.
Thank you. Now I make podcasts.
Wow.
It's different.
Just a hop, skip, and a jump away.
I'm just gonna jump. She ended up writing a lot, like hundreds and hundreds of pages.
Whoa.
I had forgotten about the project, and she was still writing. Don't know what happened to him. And then, of course, time progressed, and I forgot about Warrior Cats. But I do remember distinctly, I got back into them on maybe camping is not the right word. We were in a cabin, but the cabin was in the middle of nowhere. A cabin trip out to Big Bend National Park with my family at the end of high school. And I was bored out of my mind. I had a Kindle. That was about it. And I was flipping through the Kindle and I realized we had the Warrior Cats books downloaded on the Kindle. And so I just started reading them. And I read 6 of them. And then I read 12 of them. And then I read 18 of them.
Nice.
And for that week, stuck in that cabin, that's all I did. I just read Warrior Cats books and hiked with my family and ate cup noodles. It was great.
Wow.
And at that
Great
point,
vacation.
I was into Warrior Cats because of the nature, the vibes. I was out in nature. I was really feeling nature. Warrior Cats are in the woods, very much like a cat versus wild, but also like man versus wild. Like humans are a big antagonist. They're constantly encroaching on the cat's territory and bulldozing it and turning it into suburbs, I suppose. So that vibe, the nature vibe, really got into that.
That's really cool. This is a bit of a non sequitur, but it reminds me of when I was like a junior in high school and my family took a trip up the Californian coast while I was reading for school Steinbeck's East of Eden, which is like taking place all throughout that kind of area, the Salinas Valley and all that. And so I know what you mean when you say like when you're in the environment and you're engaging with art, especially books, like within that environment, it adds like a whole thing because you like read something and then you look up and you breathe in the air and you're like, it's here. I'm there.
The power in the air. Yeah. I read Percy Jackson on a road trip once. Percy Jackson is like the road trip books.
Yeah.
That's what they are. That's a good vibe.
Yeah.
I associate Madonna and Justin Timberlake's 5 Minutes with Percy Jackson now so hard because my mom was playing that on loop on the radio. I don't know why.
That's great.
Well, it seems Warrior Cats had a formative and ultimately like reverberant effect in both of your lives. I'm very happy that you introduced it to me. As the first book that we covered for the podcast, it came at a time when I was like not doing as much reading as I used to. And so it was really fun to essentially get back into a series that was just like, here we go, here's some high fantasy. Also, they're cats. And
they're aliens.
And they're aliens. It's just a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now
we go to a less fun.
No, it's still fun.
No,
what are you
it's
talking
fun,
about? It's wonderful.
But not for the characters.
Gregor the Overlander. Hunger Games Proof of Concept.
So, Michael, tell us about what point you were at when you first encountered the Gregor books.
It's rough for me to tell. I feel like, because I went to a K-8 school, I think I can more or less conceive of some of the stuff I read around 6th grade and prior to it as just falling within that range, but I don't know exactly when, and for all I know, my memory could be completely shot in that regard. So anywhere from 4th grade to 6th grade is perhaps when I read Gregor. I feel like maybe 4th grade, and it's strange because a fair amount of children's books, and we've talked about this before, can include some mature themes.
Yeah.
And very real mortal consequences. Characters facing death at every turn from a variety of perils, both natural and man-made. I think I'd already read series like Del Toro Quest at that point. I think I had read a Western series called Tuckett's Travels, which you can imagine all kinds of mortality that faces people in the American West of the 18 such and suches. And so encountering Gregor, it was like, all right, sure, characters potentially dying. We're in a dark and grim environment. Yeah, no problem. But, and I talked about this on the original podcast, it still like weighed on me enough. Just the heaviness of the atmosphere of everything Gregor had to go through. And just, yeah, there is something about Suzanne Collins' writing and about that series that after a certain point, I was just like, I don't know if this is good for my brain. But I'm very happy that in our episode, we got to discuss more about it. And I got to have a kind of post-mortem talking about it with the both of you. And I hope Jino felt the same way, considering Jino read all the way through.
Yes, it was exciting to go back to them. I did talk a lot about where I was as a kid during that episode, but one thing I didn't mention is how much I love this concept, the Hollow Earth concept, not specifically Hollow Earth with like dinosaurs and stuff, but just you go underground and there's a big cavern and there's just big bugs and weird mushrooms and jungles that grow without light. Just that concept. I didn't realize how much it impacted me, but I was thinking about it. During the pandemic, we were all trapped inside our tiny little college apartment dorms, and or at least me and Victoria were, I assume.
Yeah.
So was I.
Yeah.
The people who actually lived there didn't know I was there.
We were trapped, and at that point in my life, and I continue to now, I was playing a lot of D&D. I was getting really into it, and there was nothing to do, and I really wanted to run something. So I decided to run a D&D game for all my friends over Discord. I designed this whole world, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I basically just redesigned the Underland. But with slightly weirder creatures. I think this is the marine biologist.
I was about to say,
coming back.
This is terrestrial marine biology.
Yeah, just a mysterious world with giant creatures that are just barely on peripheries of familiarity, but are just different enough to be interesting. Being able to explore that. Nature. I love nature. Nature's so cool. And caves and bugs. Big bugs. Big bugs with hats. Oh, man. Taking temp with a hat. That'd be great. That's my perfect Gregor the Overlander.
What kind of hat? Because I'm picturing like
a big top hat.
Yeah, that's what I was.
I'm imagining a top hat or like a bowler hat and then a bow tie and like the little cane and they start doing a dance.
And it's like funny because they have to squeeze through like low hanging areas. So they have to maneuver to keep the hat on their head without squishing it.
Cute. That's great. Next up, we have Arthur, which was a show I watched from elementary to high school. It was just like the after school show that my brother and I always watched.
You watched this through high school?
Yeah.
Consistently? Semi-consistently?
Usually it was when we went to our grandma's house after school. So I'm pretty sure it was just whenever we were at her house after school, we'd be like, okay, let's watch Arthur. We also watched a lot of Cyber Chase because it was Arthur and then Cyber Chase back to back.
Cyber Chase was neat.
Yeah, so it was a nice solid hour of television. The nice thing about Arthur is it's episodic. So even if you miss an episode, it's not like you're missing key details. And also they replay episodes a lot. So sometimes they'll go back in time and they'll play like when Arthur and DW's sister was born or when like Binky gets a sister or whatever. I don't know why I only remember the like sibling ones.
Maybe because you were watching them with your sibling.
That's true. Yeah. So it's fun.
I will ask, Arthur, maybe more than most of the other properties we cover, is geared towards a younger audience. Did you feel like you were still getting something out of it all the way through high school? Was there a certain point where you were like, I'm watching this because of the nostalgia, because I relate to it, but the stories are no longer resonating with me?
Even in high school, I thought the stories, or I felt that I learned a lot about history or culture or whatnot from these characters, especially since in later years they started incorporating more diverse backgrounds for all the characters or adding new characters with like unique perspectives. And also they always have like cool guests and whatnot on the show. So I always felt like, wow, like this is like nice, wholesome content. And I'm like learning at least something from it. But I didn't like watch it with the intention of learning something, I guess.
It was just something fun to watch.
Yeah.
It was on. Why not?
Yeah. It was on. We didn't have any other television channels. Yeah, like we watched a lot of PBS. We watched Between the Lions. That was fun. That's like a show just about reading.
Yeah.
And obviously we were way too old to be the target audience for Between the Lions. But they had fun segments. I think there was Dragon Tales and the Krat Brothers, Wild Krats. So
It's like a whole era.
yeah.
That era of like PBS TV.
Yeah.
Not that I'm caught up with the modern era of
Yeah.
PBS TV to be like,
I feel like the modern era of PBS TV is just budget cuts, unfortunately.
woof.
Because I know Sesame Street has been bought, right? HBO owns Sesame Street or something
Does
now?
it?
I'm pretty sure. Or at least their back catalog. It's now only available on streaming, which is depressing.
yeah.
Very.
Oh, HBO does have streaming rights. I think Apple TV is also getting streaming rights, but HBO did just remove 200 episodes of Sesame Street from the catalog. You can't watch them anymore
That's so sad.
as part of their budget cuts.
Was it at HBO Max that was like,
Yeah, and Discovery, that huge merger.
yeah, just throwing a bunch of things in the vault? It's really horrible when you think about it. All this art that is now potentially, if the system works the way they want it to, by definition of the thing, not that they want this to happen, but they are ultimately okay with it happening, just the complete removal of access of a lot of art that a lot of people have worked a very long time to create, which has served to inspire the imaginations and entertainment of tons and tons and tons and tons of people. That is now, I guess, being left out in the cold in favor of, I don't know, making the numbers go up.
Yeah. That's why it's so great that we could watch Arthur on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why physical media is so important.
Yeah.
And if there is no physical media available, avast me hearties. We must search different waters. Yo-ho.
Amazing. Incredible.
Who knows what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
We consider the rules more guidelines than actual.
Our next episode was Wayside School, which we gave a lot of personal stories, so I'm probably just going to skip it. Because honestly, I don't have very many other personal anecdotes to add on to that.
We can just have it say, Wayside School, and then I'll say, I went there.
Jino went there. It's his experience.
So, Jino, how is it like having your life story told by this person you've never met?
A relief.
Validation at last.
After that, we have Del Toro Quest.
Oh, yes.
Which, Michael, you already mentioned that you read Del Toro Quest before you even read Gregor. So, were you in elementary, middle school?
I'm pretty sure I read it before I read Gregor. It was definitely elementary ages. At least I think. Gosh, my memory is so shot. It's just
honestly valid.
It's just a vague blur of like, I read these books in this vague decades-long span or whatever. I remember just being completely taken with them. It's hard for me to perhaps say any more than I said in our original episode, but the sheer creativity of a very strange, fantastical world. It's fun when you find fantasy, and there's a lot of this out there, but sometimes it can be tough to find, where it's
Australia.
It's Australia is what it is. There's a lot of fantasy out there that's very Tolkien-esque and affiliated with that tradition, and no doubt inspired perhaps by people's experiences, not only with The Lord of the Rings, but also with the wide breadth of series that were inspired by Lord of the Rings across the last 100 or so years. Even something like Dungeons and Dragons, which enables people to tell their own stories, has a lot of roots in that kind of thing. And when you find a series like Del Toro Quest, which is very much its own thing, and the simple lack of Tolkien's version of elves and dwarves and fantasy species and all that isn't the only thing separating it. You know, the idea of, oh, it's only humans in this world. Yeah, but guess what? There's a magic belt with magic gems and a bunch of weird, strange creatures that aren't in any other kind of media. And there's a bunch of deep lore for like all the different tribes of Del Toro that occasionally gets brought up here and there. This Shadow Lord character from a branching series that Emily Rada wrote later on.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Dang, I didn't know that either.
Extra mini spoilers, but yeah, she wrote like a whole nother series, again, set in like a whole nother place within the same world as Del Toro. And you get a little detail about the fact that the Shadow Lord was originally a powerful sorceress individual named Malverlane.
Ooh.
It was a very classic, like, I want to be king. And his brothers said, no.
You're named Malverlane.
Yes.
That's an evil name. We can't let you have any sort of power.
Very clearly. I think even in that series, like, his brothers end up going a bit adjacent to a clean moral arc, tyranny and whatnot. But Del Toro Quest was a very unique fantasy property. And I think that's very clear given how much it was adapted, ultimately.
The value of having unique and interesting art, not only inside the book, but on the cover. Eye-catching and different than all the other generic book covers we now have for a lot of young adults and even adult media now. It's just guy walking away from camera.
Yeah. Large sword or something vaguely impressionistic and, look, it's beautiful. What is this book about? Hard to say.
A modern cover might just be the belts and the stones drifting apart, maybe like a hand reaching for them or something.
Which honestly sounds kind of cool.
It sounds pretty cool.
But it wouldn't be as bespoke as, whoa, look at the cover of this book with this weird bronze knight thing, and he's like reaching out his hand way too close to you.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, look, here's a giant gross frog on the cover of book 5.
It has too many spines, and you're not sure where they're coming from, but they're definitely attached to the frog.
Book 8, here's a creepy looking old man with a bunch of strange flesh dogs.
Now, you might be thinking, aren't dogs normally made of flesh? And you're right. But you're also wrong. Read on to find out why.
Oh, dear.
So I had a lot of fun with it. I hope you both did, too.
I did. I still definitely want to read the Del Toro books. And I still think that drawing in book 1 was a mouse.
It definitely looked like a mouse.
Yeah, it did. Alas.
I will die on this hill.
All right, what else we got? Sky High.
Gino's favorite movie.
I like this movie. I was hard on it because it's funny, but when I watched it as a kid, I liked it. I did have some problems with it as a kid, but they weren't preventing me from enjoying the movie. And I liked it when I watched it again. It's a good movie. It's a well-made movie. It's just a little confused in its themes. But, like, what is it, you know?
Yeah.
Personally, I feel a little bad when I listened back to the Sky High episode because, like, Jino made a very good point and I wanted to amend it, but I think I came at you a little hard in that episode.
No, it's fine.
About whatever, Gwen's, like, character. And I want to, like, maybe clear the record a little bit and be like, let me be clear. I hope I wasn't making any excuses for the system or saying that, like, somehow Will should be fine being, like, hero support and accept it. I just want to make that clear. I was just saying, like, oh, I think it's a very interesting thing for Gwen to enter high school and be like, you know what? I didn't get the grade I wanted, so I think I'm going to turn everyone into babies.
I thought you were fine, Michael.
Yeah. If a movie deserves defense, it's Sky High. It was clearly a movie made by a clever writing team with passionate crew and actors. It did something unique with the budget it was given, and it continues to hold up today.
I would personally love a sequel to Sky High.
There was one, like, a few years ago where it was going to be, like, Sky High University.
I think we talked about
this. Yeah, I think we talked about this.
But I would love, like, a much later, like, don't even worry about that. Don't even, like, let the original characters be full adults.
Yeah.
And let's focus on, like, some adjacent child of one of, like, the ancillary characters.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. It's very much a product of his time, though.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that goofy Disney's original movie vibe with the same level of sincerity. If you did it now, there would be some kind of, like, boop on the nose. Isn't this goofy and funny? We know it's goofy and silly and weird, and that makes it funny to us. It should be funny to you, too. like a wink and a nudge at the TV.
I'm Jerry Seinfeld.
Jerry Seinfeld. I'm playing the evil scientist, Bottle Man. Get in my bottle, kids. I don't know what's going on here.
Get in this bottle.
But you know what I mean, right? There would be a wink at the camera with a modern Sky High.
Depending on who handles it, because that's the thing. For me, like, yeah, you could potentially try to create a new a Sky High, like, very distant sequel, kind of like a very distant, the Tron Legacy sequel to Tron.
Oh, yeah.
You could try to create a sequel that's in the same spirit of the thing, but I am personally very okay with, like, a movie or even just, like, a limited series that's like, you know what? No. This is for all the kids that grew up with Sky High, and we're going to take this in a different direction. And not in, like, a Pacific Rim 2 direction. I'd be interested in something that got, like, a little, like, dark with its themes and, like, pushed the boundary a little, got a little...
It's about war and peace, son.
Ooh.
What is war? What is end peace?
End peace?
It's his name, right? War and Peace?
Yeah.
Speaking of sequels that just kind of go off, the next episode we did was Naruto.
And we went off.
Yeah.
I
we did
personally
not have enough time to
apologize.
cover everything we wanted to cover in Naruto.
I personally want to apologize for this episode as well, because I think I kept coming back to summarizing plot for Jino. I think in that episode, I'm like, wow, I'm glad we spent so much time summarizing plot. And Victoria, like, immediately before or after me, maybe I wasn't paying attention, you're like, it's kind of a bummer that all we did here was summarize the plot.
I had fun.
I mean, I think it's fine. I think it's just Naruto is really long and there's too much plot to summarize. Just to talk about certain characters, you have to give so much context.
Yeah.
When Jino was talking about Obito, we had to be like, okay, so here's the thing about Obito. Like, and then it's just, we could probably do a whole episode just about each character, to be honest.
Yeah, it's probably true. Well, now that we're here, I want to hear more about what I fully admit now should have been the episode, which is talking about our personal experiences with Naruto. Because honestly, I think any person you talk to who knows Naruto, their personal experiences with Naruto are probably going to be more entertaining than talking about a lot of, like, Naruto plot itself, which, as we discussed in the episode, just keeps going.
My experience with Naruto is kind of weird. I think I was in high school and my brother started to get into Naruto. I think we watched some of the first series, but we skipped around a lot. Or at least maybe it was he was watching it and I would just occasionally pop in. And then my brother and I would have a lot of debates about the female characters in the show.
Ah, yes.
Because, as we discussed in the episode, they're not well written, but they are still cool. And I was like, they're cool. I think they're awesome. And my brother would always be like, no, they're super weak and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, you're stupid. And then I stopped watching Naruto because there's too much Naruto to watch. And this is why I had to read up on a lot of the lore before the episode and just cram knowledge into my head. Because it was like, these are things that I know from just being on the internet and other people talking about the show. But also a lot of my Naruto lore actually comes from fan fiction. So I was like, I got to read up on it to make sure that what I am talking about is accurate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What's your favorite fanfic?
We're not going to go down that rabbit hole.
But it's such juicy content.
Sasuke x Naruto, Coffee Shop AU, One Night Stand. 4,000 pages of content. Not finished.
God.
Last updated August 2018.
500 tags.
Sasuke Uchiha, but he's Mabel Pines from Gravity Falls. That's real. That's a real one.
No, it's real.
You can find it.
I read it. Gino and I read it, and we were like, what is happening? It was wild. In high school / college, then I started reading the manga because I started getting back into Naruto. And that was around like the 4th Great Shinobi War or whatever. 5th?
Oh, I thought you said 4th grade.
Oh, yeah.
The 4th grade Shinobi War.
The chibi Naruto version has
I really liked
Shinobi
watching
War.
like Rock Lee and his Ninja Pals, which is the chibi version of Naruto.
Oh, yeah.
That was fun because Rock Lee's team is like my favorite team just in general.
They are really great.
Yeah. So that was a fun series because it's just like fun and goofy. I think like I didn't really enjoy the super dark parts of Naruto. It just kind of bummed me out.
All the ways in which Naruto has trouble going real deep into a lot of character backstories. There's so many characters in the show that we don't get a lot of deep information on because it's so consumed with the next mission.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that translates to like the darkest parts of Naruto because they feel just kind of like nebulously dark and there's not a lot of exploration of that. And not a whole lot of healing except for like
Yeah, it's just from
half-hour long episodes of like someone talking to Naruto like, my whole family, my clan, my pet dog, my dog's pet fish, and they were all killed mercilessly because of violence. And now I will bring that violence to the world. All right, man.
Yeah, I think that's partially why I just totally sidetracked from the series and went to fan fiction was because they actually went into the characters and like what they went through and like analyzed what that would do to a person. So I was like, that's more interesting. I don't really care about all this other stuff.
That makes a lot of sense. I had a friend send me a My Hero Academia fanfic. It was like an epistolary fanfic. And it did the same thing because I think a lot of My Hero Academia stuff, well, it goes into some detail, but sometimes it can suffer from the same thing of not exploring as much about its setting and its characters and all the trauma they go through as it could have. All I'll say about my early experience with Naruto, actually I could probably say a few things. When I first started watching Naruto as an animated series, my experience with animation, which I loved, was a lot of like standard Western animation. And maybe you're watching, I don't know, maybe you're watching something like Justice League and you're like, there they go, punching each other into buildings and not a scratch on one of them. And then you watch something like Naruto and you're in the Forest of Death and suddenly they're bleeding and Naruto pulls out a knife and to cut his way out of a giant snake, and accidentally cuts his hand. And he's like, I'm gonna die in this snake. And my little 12-year-old like self is like, whoa, there's blood, there's violence. Whoa, Sasuke just cut off that weird person's tongue. Oh,
Jino just exploded someone's arm.
Jino just exploded someone's arm. This is so cool.
What?
Shino, not Jino.
And it was kind of in a lot of ways like my gateway drug to anime as a whole.
I mean, Naruto is a lot of people's gateway into anime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just realized something, and I'm probably misremembering or overgeneralizing. But when I said in the episode that all the guys in my 4th, 5th, 6th grade classroom were reading Naruto, I realized I remember seeing Bleach manga around, and I was thinking, who's reading Bleach? All the girls are reading Bleach. Naruto was for boys and Bleach was for girls. I don't know anything about Bleach or why it would be for girls, because as far as I know, it's about a guy who like kills ghosts or something with like
I don't
a
know
big
anything about
sword.
Bleach.
Their swords are real big.
I don't know what
I think he's
caused
like
this distinction.
I think he's a reaper or
Sure,
something, and he
yeah.
ushers ghosts to the afterlife. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's literally just that the female characters in Bleach are written better.
Probably. I would not be surprised. I
From-
don't know why.
I've never experienced much of Bleach. From what little I understand, it was like a lot of people anyway considered it good for its first several like arcs,
Mm-hmm.
and then it just kind of became like, when's the next fight?
Gotcha.
So maybe there was more character stuff going on early on.
Maybe.
Maybe
Also-
there's something about Ichigo that just gets everyone going.
I also remember something I didn't quite make the connection of at the time we recorded the episode, but one of the reasons why I was so into Naruto, despite not actually being involved in much of the books or television show of Naruto, was a popular YouTube channel at the time, Nigahiga.
Oh my gosh.
Had a lot of Naruto
Let's
content
go.
and a lot of Naruto references and themes, and they were tight. And I would say they continue to be tight. They were so cool. We all wanted to be Nigahiga.
Great channel.
Formative. I would say far more influential for all Asian American media than anyone gives it credit for. That like Nigahiga and Wong Fu Productions, everywhere, everything all at once would not exist without them. I'm going to say that right now.
I can see it. Those big like channels that engaged with media that we would be nostalgic for, I think they like compounded the nostalgic effect. I think it's like some big nutrient dense ball of nostalgia for so many properties that we all now have thanks to that content.
It was like, I don't know what the effect would be called, but it's all those in-jokes you have with your friends at school.
Yeah.
But they were also just in school with their friends. So they would take those and compress them into a video, and then we would watch that. And then those become our in-jokes rebounded at us. And then we'd reference the videos, which are really just referencing us. And
Yeah.
that process would repeat a million times until all we know in our lives is just this one stream of references in media. And we're not even sure where it started or where it came from.
After Naruto, we did the other Warrior Cats episode, so we're going to skip that because we already talked about that.
Warrior
Then we-
Cats books 2 and 3. Boy, oh boy, they sure are there.
Then we have How to Train Your Dragon.
Whee!
That's what the dragon sounds like.
I'm saying wee because I'm excited because I love How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
A specific kind of British humor where they said the children won't pay attention to our fun stories unless we make them really crass and violent. That's how they learn. That's what the kids want.
Yeah.
Man, British kids must have been wild.
Reading that book made me feel similar to when I was reading something like The Last Unicorn for the first time. If either of you have read The Last Unicorn.
There was a movie of that, right?
There was a movie of
I
that.
think I've seen the movie, but I don't think I've read the book.
The movie's good. The book is, it's almost like, I mean, we've all seen the movie of The Princess Bride, but from what I'm told about the book, reading How to Train Your Dragon made me feel like it would be like a younger version of a similar experience of reading The Princess Bride. There's so much that's played with in that book and the prose and the characters. It's so much fun. It's so mystical and magical. It literally made me feel like a kid again in a lot of ways.
Yay, nice.
There was just something about the way it leaned full into the absurdity and incredulosity of its setting and its characters.
It was great.
Warrior Cats made me feel like I was a kid in a different way.
Mm.
Warrior Cats made me feel like, oh, this is like when I'm getting into that series, it's going to shape my whole personality for several years.
And it did for many, many children.
How to Train Your Dragon was like the lightning rod that makes you go like, wow, for about a month. And then it just nestles into your heart for the rest of the things.
Yeah.
Did either of you ever read a series of historical children's books called Horrible Histories?
We talked about this. I read a slightly different but similar concept version of kind of these like picture books that were like you wouldn't want to be a mummy in ancient Egypt. or
There's a
whatever.
lot of these.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these types of series where they take historical concepts they want to teach children and they say the kids need this to be as violent as possible, as disgusting as possible. That's how they'll pay attention. But it's a British series of books and they cover a lot of different time periods or civilizations or like concepts within ancient history or even modern history. But it's got the same vibe as How to Train Your Dragon, that same crassness, that same like oh, this is so dumb and it was awful and people died and don't you like that, kids? Isn't that good? You like that, right?
Buy the next book.
Buy the next one, please. It does get old after a while, but I think How to Train Your Dragon does keep it fresh just because it's so goofy. There's no winking. I mean, there is winking, but like you're winking with it. You're not being winked at.
It must help being not just a book of look at all this grossness, but also look at all this grossness and some wholesome character dynamics.
Yeah.
Look, the father loves his kid. This dragon does not change, but it changes a little bit.
The dragon changes. The dragon, Toothless's arc is slow, but it's there. And by the end of the book, by the end of the series, I should say, you do get a very different character, a very different dragon. Ooh. A dragon who cares.
Wow.
Wow.
The next episode, we covered Amulet.
Ah. Hey, didn't the creator of that
Oh, yeah, I do have a fun follow-up story. So after we released this episode, I sent it to the person who made those motion comics that we talked about.
That Victoria voiced the lead character in.
And he was like, it was great. You guys are great and funny and all that. And then he said, I actually met the author, Kazuki Buishi, at a convention or something or another. And he said that he watched the motion comic.
Wow.
And he said that he enjoyed it.
Hey.
And I was like...
You are now canon in Kazuki Buishi's world. You're a real person now.
His mind has your voice in it.
Wild.
For a character he wrote.
Crazy. So that was a cool full circle moment.
Write in and tell us if Victoria should become a voice actress.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes, but we want more people
anyway.
to say it. Yeah.
We need evidence.
Positive reinforcement, people. Come on.
Okay, thank you. I did read book 8 after we recorded this episode. And one thing I was surprised by is because at the end of book 7, Emily becomes corrupted by the stone, which I talked about. But it didn't last for as long as I thought it would. I will admit sometimes Amulet has weird pacing where areas of the story you think they would spend less time on, they spend like a really long time focusing on. And then other areas where you think they would focus more on, they resolve it pretty quickly. So that was kind of how I felt about book 8, which is like some focus on like Emily's internal journey, which was great, but it also cuts back a lot to like Navin and like the rebellion resistance or whatever for like a really long time. And I was like, I feel like this part of the book could have been shorter and the parts with Emily could have been a bit longer, but it was still interesting. There are some interesting things that happen in Emily's story. I don't know if I should spoil, but
Jino and I just shrugged wildly.
Okay. Quick spoiler alert for anyone who's listening to this. Skip ahead like 1 minute. In book 8.
Hold on. Give them a few seconds in case they're like phones in their pocket or they're driving.
Yeah.
Where's that button? Come on. Where's the button? Okay, there we go. We're good now.
Go ahead.
In book 8, Emily goes into her, I think it's memories or like a mindscape or something, and she meets her future self.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There's like this stonekeeper that she runs into, and it's like pretty obvious that it's Emily because it looks like her just older and she still has the same staff and the same amulet and whatnot. But it was pretty cool because it was kind of like a, you're going to make it out of this. You're going to be okay moment. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
But
Hooray. So now we need to worry about Navin.
Yeah. I don't know what that kid's going to get up to, but I'm excited for book 9. After Amulet, we discussed Dinosaur.
Ooh, Dinosaur.
Do you guys have any fun anecdotes surrounding Dinosaur that we didn't cover in the episode?
Shout out to Aladar fan page, our #1 dinosaur fan.
Heck yeah. So we've had a few people write into us, whether on YouTube comments or social media, and I do want to take this moment to say we appreciate your listenership very much, and we appreciate you reaching out. We appreciate your advice, recommendations. We can't always get to all of them. The sort of show conceit in the episode formats make it difficult to cover all requests. But I do recall, as I'm sure the rest of you do, there was, I think, one specific request Aladar fan page had. They wanted us to talk about the fight between Aladar versus Kron at the end of the film, because we didn't get around to it. And we didn't have any plans to get around to it because there was just no time. But we are here now.
That's true. We kind of addressed it, but we kind of brushed over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They hit each other with their tails.
You know what? I'm not sure they do in that one fight. I think there's a lot of shoulder checking.
There's mostly it's like mostly like headbutting and like football style tackling almost.
You know, I do.
Oh my God. Michael's disappeared. Where'd he go? Oh, he's back.
Sorry, I just had to disincorporate for a second.
It was crazy. Particles everywhere.
One of the benefits of driving places a lot, especially in California, is sometimes you spend time on the freeway, and when you're not listening to music...
Wait, hold on.
When you're not listening to music, your mind wanders.
No.
And when your mind wanders...
No, benefits? Sometimes you're on the freeway?
Yeah, sometimes you're on the freeway and you're not doing anything like listening to music or a podcast like Nostalgia Club. Recommend this to your friends. And you're just thinking about things and your mind wanders, and sometimes it wanders to the climactic battle between Aladar and Kron in the hit 2000s movie Dinosaur. And sometimes you create a voice memo where you talk about all of your thoughts and feelings about the battle between Aladar and Kron in the hit 2000s movie Dinosaur. To all Victoria and Jino's loved ones, just keep hitting that skip button until you finish hearing me talking. To my loved ones, you have to listen. And to Aladar fan page, this little analysis of the Aladar and Kron fight is directly for you. I get a little esoteric in some of my wording. I really dive in here. I hope it's not like too far beyond what you hoped I would talk about, but I am going to do this little analysis for you here. Also, I'm going to throw my voice a little bit, like a Dan Carlin hardcore history thing. There's this voice that Dan Carlin does when he's reading from like a historical source or whatever to separate his normal voice with like a quote. And I think it would just add a little kick, a little spice.
Wait, so this is like in your notes, or is it an actual voice memo? Michael wrote an essay.
I wrote a mini thesis.
Oh my God.
Holy
So, real quick, Aladar fan page, just because I'm doing a voice doesn't mean I'm being like sarcastic. I just think it'll add a little something extra. I think like everything I say in this essay. I'm literally putting to use all of my English honors essay writing skills here. Aladar versus Kron. The climactic battle of the hit 2000s movie Dinosaur. A violent and aggressive outburst of opposing wills as fierce as the very forces that have pushed the herd across the wastelands to its conclusion. Kron himself is representative of all these tyrannical forces. The threat of extinction, the callous dominion of nature, and the power it wields over the smaller, softer beings that compose its very fabric. Like the fireball and the wasteland, Kron's power looms large over the herd's very destiny, and the path these dinosaurs' lives will take. Perhaps the most interesting aspect of the fight between Aladar and Kron is that it serves as a pre-climax to the final battle with the Carnotaur, and certainly it is the most fitting end to the film's conflict, as, in a story so embroiled in themes of mortality, defeating the carnivorous beast will require confronting a force of nature, death incarnate, death in both body and soul, as represented by the Freudian id and the superego. The dinosaurs will have to defy the physical drive that compels them to abandon everything in the pursuit of self-preservation, and instead choose to see themselves at the purest apex their dinosaurian aspirations can reach, as all that they can be if they work together. Aladar and Nera will step even further, foregoing the safety of the herd to confront the Carnotaur alone. But before the battle for body and soul can take place, we must first battle for the heart, for the ego. And this is where the fight between Aladar and Kron shines. Kron's social Darwinist philosophy, only the strong survive, represents a human ego controlled by a Freudian id in crisis, by the demands of one's basic impulses and desperation for material security. Aladar, on the other hand, represents a human ego inspired by the most noble of superegos. His honest intentions, compelling him to rise to the occasion, put him at odds with Kron's cruel and defensive nature. And so they meet, like two unstoppable forces at the base of the ravine. In the face of extinction, which will prevail? Aladar or Kron? It only makes sense that Kron is the first to strike, for according to his perspective, he has the most to lose. By attacking Aladar, he gains a decisive advantage in their ensuing battle. And unlike the tentative fear we will see him display in his battle against the Carnotaur, his ferocity against Aladar is unrestrained and vicious. Certainly, the fight against the Carnotaur is the most elemental battle in the movie, but the fight between Aladar and Kron is the most human, And in that respect, a discussion of the blow-by-blow is almost beside the point. For the crux of this conflict comes in the acknowledgement that Kron's fierceness and malign cunning is destined to overwhelm the purity of heart so embodied in Aladar. Certainly, Kron would have prevailed and destroyed the noble iguanodon if not for an archetypal rescue from without. As Nira slams Kron aside in the decisive moment, ending the fight in a sudden turn, her intervention proves a truer representation of Aladar's victory than anything else. For in the face of apocalypse, a selfless act inspiring others to act selflessly is the greatest victory of all. That took a lot longer to read than I thought it would.
That was intense.
I
Wow.
feel like I showed up to class and the teacher was like, hey, you have a presentation due.
Ugh.
And I was like, I don't have a presentation. And then the first person to go is Michael.
It was very funny because I could see the both of you slowly dissociate, like in line with classmates on presentation day.
No, I was in it.
Oh,
I was
you were
listening.
I feel like I could see the sort of like, oh, all right, this is just gonna be the next. And when's lunch?
No,
When's fifth
I'm
period?
into it. I'm into it.
Okay,
I did look it up. They do hit each other with their tails.
they do.
They do.
Well,
At least once.
Hold on, let me rewrite my whole thesis.
That changes everything. That was excellent, Michael.
Amazing.
Well-
Aladar fan page. I hope you are sated.
I hope. I certainly hope. That's all I got in me. Moving on.
Moving on.
After that, we got The Secrets of Droon. My mom tried to look for the books at my grandma's house, and I don't think she found them because she didn't text me to tell me that she found them. So they were just lost to the abyss, never to be found again.
I'll give it 7 Droons out of 12.
We have agreed this series is either very Droon or not very Droon, which would be the most ironic thing.
Yeah.
But also, we haven't come to a conclusion what Droon is as a metric for measuring something.
I think that it's lacking a certain Droon, which would make it extremely Droon in a Droonish sense.
There's something very Droon about the first book, and I think the level of Droon maybe wanes in later books until you reach the very end of the series, at which point the Droon takes on a whole nother Droon.
It's pretty Droon.
Any more Droon you have to Droon, Victoria?
Not really. I was just trying to think back, and I'm pretty sure I maybe only read the first and last book because I really don't remember anything that happens in the middle.
You read the first one and went, oh man, this Droon is just too Droon. I got to know what happens at the end. And you read it and you went, oh, now I Droon it all. There's no way I can go back and Droon this whole series. It'll take the whole Droon out of it.
Yeah. Or maybe it was just that my grandma only had books 1, 3, and
114.
maybe one day I'll find it.
I do have a small anecdote, not about Droon at all, but about the location in which I first witnessed the Droon books in existence, which is my first, second, third grade elementary classroom. I was a voracious reader, and I was known, as much as a third grader could be known to be, as a, quote, excellent writer, unquote. I was in third grade. How good could it have been? But
I'm sure you're a good writer, Jino. You're a good writer now.
Yeah.
thanks. I mostly write tweets for the We're Alive Twitter.
You write infected field journals.
Yeah, they're great.
They're really good.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. In third grade, a girl approached me and said, I want to work with you to write a book. She was very, very forward. She wouldn't take no as an answer.
Oh, wow.
I also happened to have the beginnings of a crush on her. I didn't know what that was. I was in third grade. So I said, yes, I will help you write a book.
Yeah.
Of course. So every day during reading time, instead of reading, we'd go sit by the front door. There was a little like desk by the front door that was kind of out of the way, and we'd write. Except I should say we would write is incorrect. I would write, and she would sit there and doodle.
Not the worst of all worlds.
It's like the kid in Wayside School who like sits there and gives the girl papers so she can draw.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Except instead of giving her paper, I was giving her a masterpiece. And she was taking the credits.
Was she like, I want to commission a story from you,
Basically.
but also I get to put my name on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I was basically ghostwriting for her. She
Wow.
would draw the pictures, and I would write a story about 2 time travelers in a bus house. Maybe some Magic School Bus vibes there. And they would go back in time to see dinosaurs, because I was into dinosaurs. That's all I knew how to write about. So I wrote about dinosaurs.
Right, what you know,
I
they
did
say.
take basically verbatim episode descriptions from Walking with Dinosaurs. But I was very proud of that. I was like, wow, I've written something. I've written a book.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This is
Third
crazy.
grade? Are
Third
you
grade.
kidding me?
And
That's
she
awesome.
said, I'm going to take this home and I'll keep working on it over the summer. And then we'll get back together and and then we'll have like a finished thing. And I said, great. I never saw it again. And she never talked to me again either.
Whoa.
Whoa, she ghosted you.
She knew what she wanted. She took it. She left.
Maybe she read it and she's like, it's not
Girl
good.
boss.
No, I'm kidding.
Gatekeep. Gaslight. And I was out of there.
Dang.
Wow.
Never saw it again.
Unfortunate.
We could all learn a lesson from this, being
Right.
adults in the entertainment industry.
Gino's old classmate, if you're listening to this,
Jino, you got the wildest
Yeah.
stories from your childhood.
I think you have the wildest stories in general.
They're just my life. I don't say them thinking they're wild. They're just facts. True facts about the Jino.
What we're saying is that your life is very exciting. My stories are just like, I read a lot as a kid.
No. My life was, I was on the periphery of an exciting life. I was witnessing exciting lives happening. I was just happened to be there in the room when they happened.
Yeah, that makes you like literally the protagonist of many different anime. You know what I mean.
My hair's not crazy enough for that, Michael. You should be the protagonist. Look at your hair.
No, there's so many. Forget this episode format. There's so many characters in anime that are like, hi, I'm the person who leads a very standard life and has very regular expectations for the world around me. I'm thinking of like the melancholy, nope, that's not the one. Or on High School Hosts Club.
Oh my gosh. Sorry. That was like,
That was the
I was
most
gonna
benign. That was the most benign. Oh, I recognize that. Oh my gosh.
I was gonna be like, oh my gosh, I just started watching that, and then but I didn't
That was
have
an
enough
incredible.
energy.
There was so much nuance and layers in how you said that, and the way you were postured when you said it, kind of like hunched down, but your chin was up, like so. Like I'm so tired, but I'm interested.
Anyway, Jino, you're the.
Are you saying Gino is Haruhi?
I don't know what that means. I've never seen this.
Haruhi is a very like normal person.
Yeah.
Haruhi is a very normal person, and all the characters around her are crazy.
I don't know what this means.
We can talk about Or High School Host Club after.
Anyway, Jino, you have fantastic stories from your childhood, and you are suitable to be the protagonist of an anime. That's
Yes.
all. That's where I'm leaving it.
Thank
agree.
you. Thank you. I think
Actually, being the protagonist of an anime is horrible. Usually, well, it depends on the anime. If you're in like a nice like shoujo or like slice of life anime, your life is probably okay. But if you're the protagonist of like Naruto,
It's gonna be
you're gonna have a rough time.
now. What do you call a slice of life anime if there are no slices? It's just life.
So like an anime that's just one continuous sequence.
It's just one long tracking shot of this guy going through his life. He wakes up too late, makes his bed, runs out the door, edits podcasts for 8 hours, goes home and plays Lego Star Wars and then passes out.
Hey, Lego Star Wars is great.
It's great.
I love Lego Star Wars.
I have it on my phone.
Whoa.
You- They can
it's
do
on,
that now?
It's on mobile now. The original Lego Star Wars is a complete saga.
Wow.
We should do a Lego Star Wars complete saga in an episode of Nostalgia Club.
Where we play Lego Star Wars and then we
I
talk
don't know
about
what we talk about.
We're just like, I really liked the mechanics of Lego games.
It's Yoda dying.
I
Or
love,
the sound of like when you find the hidden weird white tank thing and
Oh, the mini
and it
kit.
goes
Yeah.
I love that sound. We are spending so much
Yeah,
time on
okay,
stuff
okay,
that's
sorry.
not going to go
We
in
just
the
titled this
podcast.
episode the non sequitur
This
episode.
is just Gino, Michael, and Victoria riff off of books and tell random stories about their childhood. Anyways,
The Puints and the Puapa.
Where did that come
I
from?
don't know. I don't know. I think I killed Victoria.
Oh wow, Victoria's really dead.
She's laughing, but there's no sound coming out. And as a listener, you don't know if I'm lying or not.
Maybe if we're quiet, we'll hear her recover. Here
Nope.
it comes, here it comes. Eventually. Here it comes, here it comes, here
It
it comes.
wasn't that funny.
Here it comes, here it comes.
You
Leave
need
all,
to
leave
breathe.
all.
You need
There
to
it
breathe.
is.
Breathe in.
it wasn't that funny, but then when you started talking about it, it made it funnier.
I think this unbridled joy regarding the Princess and the Pauper kind of speaks for itself. That and the hour-long episode we did on the Princess and the Pauper.
Yes. That
It's
incredible
my favorite
movie.
episode.
Oh yeah, top tier. If you're looking for episodes to listen to and you haven't listened to that one, highly recommend.
at some point, I will watch all of the Barbie movies and rank them on a tier list.
Yes, please.
Yeah. I don't know how the listener is going to know what the tier list is. Maybe I'll do my own separate podcast where I talk about the Barbie movies.
Hey guys, welcome back to Nostalgia Club. Victoria left the show to start our Barbie tier list podcast, and it's already doing far better than we could have ever dreamed this one would do.
After Princess and the Pauper, we had the Bartimaeus sequence.
So I've been told that I have been referring to Nathaniel as an orphan when he is in fact not an orphan. Technically speaking, his parents could still be alive somewhere. And the fact that he will never see them again and they are functionally out of his life and for all intents and purposes in the novel series, dead, does not make him an orphan. He is...
Abandoned?
Yeah. What does that make him? Is there a title?
Adopted?
Adopted. Forcibly adopted against his will. I guess all children are adopted against their will. Are they? I've never been adopted.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, if you're living in whatever those, like, medieval days where, I don't know if this was medieval or not, but you know how, like, the Grimm's fairy tales were designed to teach kids about the harsh realities of life, or so our English teachers told us? I imagine if one of those, like, parents was like, well, we can't feed all the kids this winter, time to take one into market and abandon him. I'm pretty sure that kid would qualify as an orphan.
Actually, I have been doing some research on child labor in the medieval times for...
As you do.
You know, as you do.
Yeah.
And it's been a slightly frustrating experience because a lot of the websites I look at say, oh, yeah, children in the medieval times, they'd help their parents out in the fields. And I'm like, I know that. I know children help their parents out with whatever profession. But I'm thinking more of the idea of children working in professions other than their family. That must have been a thing, right?
Was it more of a
like
thing?
Like apprenticeships and stuff?
Maybe. Yeah. I was looking for anything. And the only thing I could find that was, I guess, common enough to write about in these several websites that I went through was that children would often be sent away by their parents to be servants to other people for churches or nobles or any sort of institution like a bathhouse. They would just be sent away at 12 and up or even younger. You're a servant now. Goodbye. And they just never see their parents again.
Whoa.
So Nathaniel is that.
Yeah. Like he's sent off to basically a trade school and he never sees his family again.
Guess so, huh?
His parents were like, you have magic? Goodbye.
The world's worst boarding school.
Yeah.
The students, you. The teacher, old and angry.
Yeah, that does put an interesting historical perspective on it. Oh, I did want to mention, in the original episode, we mentioned at the end the cycle of empire.
Yes.
So to speak, old historical concept to go over again. How did it go?
Big men make small countries. I couldn't even finish it.
Hard times make strong men. Strong men make good times. Good times make weak men. Weak men make hard times. So the saying goes. Well, the series doesn't do that specifically. We kind of like implied that that's what it does. It has its own version of that, which is magicians or people who have the ability to summon and bind spirits to their will, create empires. Over time, commoners and all the oppressed peoples who aren't a part of the class that use spirits as slaves, develop magical resistances. Just as a pure, not quite natural selection, but I think it's like from exposure.
Oh, that's cool.
Develop magical resistances.
Cool. Yeah.
And then over time, when that becomes more of the norm and the people understandably have had enough of living under the boot heel of an oppressive class of imperialists, they're able to rise up and successfully overthrow their respective governments because the dominant weapon that these magicians have to wield against them is rendered ineffective. And the conflagration of that, the violence of these people going at each other when their powers are more equaled, creates a new dark age. It levels pretty much everything. And then the whole process starts all over again.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
Because you have people wielding nuclear bombs against those who are immune to radiation.
Mm-hmm.
And so the only weapon they have is the bomb. They're going to keep tossing it. And it's going to level the city. Dang, that's cool.
Yeah, and that becomes a big part of the later book. Kitty, the member of the Resistance, is basically sort of given a bit of a download, I think, by Bartimaeus. And her whole thing, a lot of her arc transitions from I got to overthrow the government to I got to figure out a way to stop this cycle.
Break the wheel.
I'm
break the
excited
wheel.
to meet Kitty in future books.
She's a
Yeah.
great character.
Get
Yeah.
to know her.
When I was a kid and I didn't have quite the full level of understanding that I have now, part of me was like you can see like some of the connections between Nathaniel and Kitty in the sense that they're both kids who got basically abused by magicians, but they're on different sides of society and they've both been messed up in different ways by where they've fallen. And when I was a kid, I was so used to like, and then they kiss that I was like pushing for that. But the book handles it in a bit of a different way. And I think it's ultimately a more mature way, given the fact that it stares like the brutality and like dehumanization of the system in the face. And so I do highly recommend finishing
I
the
am
series.
intrigued.
Such a cool world.
Yeah.
Such amazing world building from a series. I want to say my favorite thing that I've ever said in Nostalgia Club was the clown joke in the Bartimaeus sequence episode, where you said he blows his horn, and I said clown horn, and you went and I said, and he summons the biggest clown you've ever seen.
I lose it at that. I lose it at a few things Gino does in these episodes. I'm trying to think.
Anytime Jino does a voice.
Anytime Gino does a voice. Oh, the Bartimaeus episode when I think I'm like, we're talking about length, about like, oh yeah, Nathaniel, you understand like where he comes from, and he faces abuse at a very young age. So you can like, even though his actions are reprehensible in a lot of ways or selfish, you understand where he comes from. And then Gino says, me adoptive mum died. I have the slight moral high ground. Slave! Kill that man! And I lose it every time.
It's so good.
Thank you. I went to improv class for one summer.
The one
It
who
went-
should become a voice actor is Jino.
I was
Hell
booed
yeah.
off stage
Oh no!
because I said Texas sucks in Texas. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But you're from Texas.
Yeah. Listen, there's two types of kids who grow up in Texas. They're the ones who are indoctrinated, and there are the ones who see it for what it really is. A blasted hellscape of flat nothing. And excellent food.
And after that moment, we proceeded to go on yet another tangent, which, in order to spare you of that, I'm just going to cut to right after that. And I had a fun transition that I didn't want to leave out. So we're just going to go there now. Okay, bye. This is just a look inside our conversations at the office,
Yeah.
which is where the whole idea of Nostalgia Club came to be.
Yeah.
Speaking of bees, our last episode is about the bee movie.
And what an episode it was.
Yeah.
Our most unhinged.
We literally just like lost our minds at the end.
I'm trying to think. I think I might have put my foot in my mouth again in that episode, and I'm trying to think what it was. I might have done it a few times because I'd like to correct mistakes that I made. Maybe I erroneously like threw out something about the overarching like bee and honey industry. About I don't know. I read some articles
Like stealing bees or something.
something like that. I really should have like checked that article and like that whole thing before I like randomly threw that out there again.
Listener, take our scientific knowledge of bees in episode 15 with a grain of salt.
With a grain of pollen, even.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I don't know whether or not what you said was true, but I believe it because I believe that every industry, when you get really deep down, if it's big enough,
Yeah.
any industry, when you get deep down into the bowels of it, every industry is just wild. There are things that people do in that industry that they consider normal that no other human being would ever think to do because competition is fierce. Capitalism takes no prisoners. And sometimes you just got to steal a bee.
One single bee to save them all.
And that bee is Barry B. Benson.
Buzz, buzz, buzz.
Buzz, buzz, buzz.
I also feel like maybe we were a little too hard on old Jerry Seinfeld.
I don't know.
I don't know anything
But
about him.
Gino's impression of Jerry Seinfeld was so good.
It
Well-
wasn't good. It wasn't
was funny.
accurate.
Well, that to me was like less of an evisceration of like the person Seinfeld and more of like performance, which it's okay to critique art. Performance is
It's
art.
just in an early scene in the movie, he's getting tossed around by tennis rackets. He's getting shoved through a car engine. He's freaking out, right? He's having a horrible time, as anyone would. And then later in the bathroom, Patrick Warburton is trying to kill him, and he's having a great time.
Yeah.
He's having a fantastic. He's like, ah, ha, ha. You try to hit me with your rolled up newspaper, but I'm surfing in the toilet. Is this toothpaste? I'm gonna put it in your mouth because I'm Jerry Seinfeld. Like, it's like it doesn't make any sense. There's
Yeah.
no character progression. It's just a complete switch because suddenly there's another person in the room and there's someone to riff off of. There's someone to make fun of, and Jerry Seinfeld's in his element. He's not Barry B. Benson anymore. He's just Jerry Seinfeld. That's it. That's my rant.
Thanks for listening to Nostalgia Club. We'll catch you on season 2.
Yeehaw.
For B-Movie 2.
Oh, God.
Electric Beagaloo.
Buzz, buzz, buzz.
Buzz, buzz, buzz.
Buzz, buzz, buzz.
Thank you for listening to Nostalgia Club. If you enjoyed the episode, follow us on Twitter @_Nostalgia Club and on Instagram @Nostalgia Club Podcast. Leave a comment, give us a rating, and subscribe. You can also send us an email with your suggestions for what we should review next at nostalgiaclubpodcast@gmail.com.